Welcome to episode 2 of Dolly at 80. I sure hope you enjoyed the first episode. Now y'all come on up here and sit a spell, pour yourself something sweet, maybe some sweet tea, maybe something a little stronger if the day's been long, because tonight we're continuing Dolly's story. Now when we left off, Dolly Parton had just done one of the bravest things a woman in country music could do in the early 1970s. She walked away from Porter Wagner, walked away from security, walked away from a situation where she was successful but not free. And folks didn't think she would survive. Truth be told, some folks were hoping she wouldn't. When Dolly wrote "I Will Always Love You," it wasn't meant to be dramatic. It wasn't meant to be a torch song. It was a goodbye letter. She later explained it best when she said, "I was trying to say to Porter, I will always love you, but I have to go." That's it. No bitterness, no blame, just honesty. Dolly sat down and penned the song in 1973, and the song was released in 1974, and it went straight to number 1 on the country charts. "I Will Always Love You" finished 1974 as one of the best-selling singles. Dolly was awarded with the CMA Female Vocalist of the Year in 1975 for the song. By the way, CMA stands for the Country Music Association, for those of y'all that might not know. With "I Will Always Love You" success, Elvis took notice of the song. He set his eyes on recording it himself. And y'all, Dolly was elated that Elvis wanted to record her song. She would later tell in an interview that the recording session had been planned and Elvis was set to record her hit song. Then it all fell apart. Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis's manager, called Dolly the night before the recording session and told her that anything Elvis records, he gets half of the publishing rights on. Dolly was heartbroken. She knew she couldn't give that up. At that point, "I Will Always Love You" had been Dolly's biggest song. She just wasn't willing to give up half of the ownership of it because the song would become a part of her legacy and would take care of her family after she had gone. So through the tears, she called off the deal. She was heartbroken as well as embarrassed because she had told everyone Elvis was going to record her song. People told her she was crazy for not allowing Elvis to record the song and give him half of the publishing ownership of it, but she said that it just didn't feel right at the time. It turned out that feeling she had in her heart was correct. Whitney Houston recorded it, and Dolly later said that when Whitney recorded the song, she said, quote, "I made enough money to buy Graceland." But we'll get to Whitney's version in a little bit. Priscilla Presley would later confide in Dolly that Elvis really loved the song and was very upset that it didn't work out to where he could record it. She also told Dolly that the day her and Elvis's divorce was finalized, Elvis sang the song to Priscilla as they were leaving the courthouse. Now folks, here's something that doesn't happen often, and it didn't happen by accident. Dolly Parton would later take that same song back to number 1 in 1982 when she re-recorded it for the Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. This version was released on July the 12th, 1982, and it hit number 1 on the Billboard charts almost immediately, earning Dolly a rare distinction of reaching number 1 twice with the same song, same voice, same truth. Then, in 1995, Dolly recorded the song as a duet with Vince Gill for her album entitled "Something Special." The duo performed the song together during an appearance of the Grand Ole Opry on August the 26th, 1995, which aired on TNN. After their appearance on the Grand Ole Opry, radio stations took notice of the duet and started to give the song unsolicited airplay. Due to this, the song found itself on the Billboard Hot Country Singles and Tracks at number 53. Then, after the success of the duet, Dolly and Vince performed the duet on the 29th Annual CMA Awards. The single for Dolly and Vince's duet was released in November 1995. The track peaked at the number 15 spot. This was the third time that Dolly had a top 20 hit with "I Will Always Love You." The duet was nominated for the Best Country Collaboration with Vocals at the 38th Annual Grammy Awards, as well as being named Vocal Event of the Year at the 30th Annual CMA Awards. The song has been recorded by a few other artists and covered countless times, of course, But a couple of other noteworthy recordings are Broadway's powerhouse Kristen Chenoweth's 2019 recording of the song for her album For the Girls. Then there was the feature of I Will Always Love You in the medley of country songs entitled Forever Country in 2016 for the 50th anniversary of the Country Music Association Awards. Dolly, along with 29 other country artists, performed the medley, and boy did it hit with the fans. It debuted at number 1 on the Billboard Hot Country chart and placed at number 21 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. But even with all the success of the song, Dolly never lost sight of what the song truly was. She said, "That song was my soul speaking." Now, Dolly knew leaving Porter's show wasn't going to be easy. Their partnership had become rocky, to say the least. When she penned the song I Will Always Love You, she was telling him that she must go, but would always love and appreciate him for what he had done for her. Before the song was released, she sat Porter down and sang the song to him. By the end, they were both in tears, and he said she could go, according to later interviews where she discussed that time period of leaving the show. But Porter didn't make it easy for Dolly to leave. They had many professional ventures together, and it would take time to hammer out the details of the split. They had meetings discussing and planning the split. Dolly said that Porter put up a good fight in splitting their ventures, but so did she. She said she could tell it was the right decision to go, and towards the end, Porter, through his actions in the negotiations, seemed to know it was time to part ways due to his weakening arguments for her to stay. She said that it was as if they both just wanted to get out of each other's way at that point. After the details had been worked out, and it seemed both parties were in agreement on the details of the split, Dolly set out on her own for a solo career. However, she would soon feel as though she had been slammed into a brick wall after the carpet had been ripped out from under her. Shortly after leaving, Porter sued Dolly. He alleged that he had made her a star and that her departure was a breach of her contract. He felt he was entitled to money up front as well as a portion of her future earnings. In fact, his lawsuit against Dolly was for $3 million, plus a percentage of all of her future earnings. Now, folks, adjusted for inflation, that $3 million is equal to about $19.5 million today. Dolly was devastated, absolutely bumfuzzled. She was so hurt over the lawsuit that she cried for days. She later said in her autobiography that she wanted to spare her family the embarrassment of a long court battle, so she decided to settle out of court. She settled on paying Porter $1 million. Adjusted for inflation, that equals out to be about $6.5 million in 2026. She explained in her autobiography that she had felt like she absolutely did not owe that $1 million to Porter, nor did he deserve it. But she was bound by the court to pay it, and she said since the court said she had to, she took that as being sacred. She said she could have probably filed bankruptcy, and I'm sure she was probably advised to. But she said that she is a woman of her word, and she always pays her bills. About having to pay Porter the money, she is quoted as having said, "I made up my mind that if he could live with it, I could live without it. I am neither his conscience nor his accountant." Dolly and Porter would eventually reconcile years later, after Dolly made good on her payments to him. They even went on to rejoin each other to perform at various appearances throughout his later years. In fact, in his last years, after he had suffered health problems and severe financial problems, she did the unthinkable. Porter's music catalog had been sold off to cover his financial woes. Dolly, being the generous person she is, purchased back his entire catalog of music and gave it back to him. She did this so he would have income during his final days, and so his family would be taken care of after his passing. After the settlement, Dolly had to get to work on making money to pay Porter. She didn't have that kind of money on hand at the time. Yes, she had made well on the show, but even a multimillionaire would be hard-pressed to put their hands on that amount of money in liquid funds. After leaving Porter, Dolly faced the hardest question of her career. Was she really a star on her own? Turns out, yes, and then some. She had to get the show on the road to make a living for herself on her own as a solo artist, as well to start making payments to Porter for the lawsuit settlement. Between 1974 and 1977, Dolly released a run of albums and singles that would make most artists jealous for a lifetime. It's of my personal opinion that some of her best work came from this time period. I think the pain from the Porter saga and the desperation to make good on her own led to a powerful drive in her songwriting during this period. For example, songs like Jolene, Love is Like a Butterfly, The Bargain Store, Here You Come Again were products from this time period of her career. Now, Jolene deserves its own rocking chair. That song came from two places: a real-life bank teller who flirted with Dolly's husband, Carl Dean, and a little red-headed girl Dolly met while signing autographs who told her that her name was Jolene. Dolly laughed and said, "That's the prettiest name I've ever heard. I'm going to use that in a song someday." And boy, she did. The song wasn't about weakness. It was about being vulnerable, a woman honest enough to admit fear without surrendering her dignity. That honesty made people lean in. In later years, Dolly, in an interview on The Bobby Bones Show, said that she had discovered that Jolene had been written on the same night she had written I Will Always Love You. She would later clarify that she couldn't be certain if it really was that same night, but said it was definitely during the same time period as I Will Always Love You. She had discovered this when she was going through old tapes she used to use during her songwriting process and found that Jolene was on the same tape as I Will Always Love You. Now imagine writing two major hits during the same writing sessions. Recently, Beyoncé reworked Jolene for her Cowboy Carter album. She took it in a totally different direction than Dolly had originally. Dolly has praised Beyoncé's version, saying though it's in a different spirit than her original version, she's happy with what Beyoncé had done with the song. On a personal note, I think one of my favorite renditions of Jolene, other than the original of course, is the recording she did with the group Pentatonics as a collaboration for Cracker Barrel. If you've not seen that video, I encourage you to look it up. In 1976, Dolly was given her own TV show, simply called Dolly. It was a half-hour syndicated TV show where she would have musical guests appear with her on the show. The half hour was filled with musical performances with her and her guest. One especially special episode of the show is the episode where she had her own family on the show. Their rendition of In the Pines as a Family is especially noteworthy. The show didn't last long, though. It lasted only one season, unfortunately. By the late 1970s, Dolly made a decision that caused some serious pearl clutching in Nashville. She went pop. Big hair, big production, big glossy sound. She got new management to lead her through her crossover to the pop world. In 1976, she began working with Sandy Galen as her manager, whom she had met through Mac Davis. Her image changed. She became more polished and refined. However, she never lost her country roots or her true self through the crossover. She started to write new pop-leaning material and started to record other songwriters' material. Pop songwriters, that is. Of course, even when recording the pop material from this time, she always added her country touch to the material. This is another favorite time period of mine in Dolly's career. Songs like Here You Come Again climbed not just the country charts, but the pop charts. And folks said, "She's selling out. She's forgetting where she came from. She won't last." Dolly heard it all, and she responded the only way she knew how, with grace and a wink. She said, "I don't believe in limiting myself. I'm just expanding." What people missed was this: Dolly never stopped being country. She just refused to be small. She later said in her autobiography that remaining strictly in country, while rewarding, held her back on making money. She said while a song with 60,000 sales in country was considered the big time, a pop hit could sell millions and make exponentially more. At least that was the case during that time frame. Now, country music is the fastest growing genre and is right up there with the biggest money makers in the industry. Times have certainly changed. It's clear that Dolly can share some of the credit for bringing country music more into the mainstream. Dolly had hit the big time with her crossover. Because of her top notch management, bigger promotion through her new record label, hit after hit, and touring engagements, she was making serious money. However, what she was pulling in, as much as it was, wasn't left with much after she had to pay her band, employees, and made payments to Porter. It would take her a while to finish paying him off, but she did, and then she really started making those bank deposits for herself. Then came 1980, and with it, Hollywood. Dolly made her film debut in 9 to 5 alongside Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin. Now, a funny side story about 9 to 5. Since Dolly had never been in a movie before, she thought the movie would be filmed the way a play is played out, shot from beginning to end in sequence. She memorized the script from beginning to end, both her parts and everybody else's as well. This was a source of great amusement to her co-stars and to Dolly herself. After memorizing the script, she showed up to film and not only learned that movies were not shot in sequence, but the script she had memorized was now useless as it had already been rewritten. Now let me tell you something. Nobody expected Dolly Parton to walk into Hollywood and hold her own. But she didn't just hold her own, she stole scenes. She also wrote the title song, 9 to 5, tapping her acrylic nails together to create rhythm. She said to her it sounded like a typewriter. That song went to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. She won 2 Grammy Awards. The song was included on her album, 9 to 5 and Other Odd Jobs, which in my opinion is an outstanding album. And, just like that, Dolly Parton wasn't just a country singer. She was a movie star now. She followed 9 to 5 with The Best Little Chicken House in Texas, excuse me for substituting the name there, and Steel Magnolias. Having just come off filming 9 to 5, Dolly was really looking forward to filming The Best Little Chicken House in Texas. 9 to 5 had been a very rewarding and fun experience for her. The set of 9 to 5 was harmonious and everybody enjoyed the work. So she was really looking forward to the chicken house. After starting work on the chicken house, she would change her mind quickly. Everything about the production of that movie was a heartache and a headache. Many people were fired, hired, and fired again. Burt Reynolds was going through a nasty breakup with Sally Field, so he wasn't in a good mood. He was also suffering from painful back problems. She has said that the chicken house really sucked the wind out of her as far as movie making was concerned. I should mention here that she did a movie with Sylvester Stallone after Chicken House. It wasn't a critical nor a financial success. The name of that movie was Rhinestone. And then there was Steel Magnolias, where she played Truvy, the town's beautician, warm, funny, and heartbreakingly human. That performance made people see what her fans always knew. Dolly wasn't playing dumb. She was smart as a fox. At first, Dolly felt as though her time filming Steel Magnolias might not be a pleasurable experience. The director didn't seem to like her and didn't feel like she belonged in the role, much less be an actor at all. The buzz around Hollywood was that the set would be tense, with so many strong stars in the movie. They felt as though there would be ego clashes and blow-ups. The director also didn't like Julia Roberts at first because she was so inexperienced. All of these things would prove to be untrue and unfounded. After the start of filming, the director really came to like Dolly as well as Julia. Dolly said that they all ended up really enjoying the production and all became great friends. The production had taken place down in Louisiana and it was hot. If you're from the South, you know just how hot it can be when it's mixed with humidity so thick you need a knife to cut the air with. After filming a scene in smothering heat, the cast was complaining about it being so hot. Dolly just sat there and never complained, even though she was wearing a wool dress and wearing her signature wig. Julia Roberts asked her about that and how she wasn't complaining, especially while wearing the hot clothes and the hot wig. Dolly replied, "When I was a little girl, I wanted to be famous, and I wanted to be rich. And now I'm both of these things. I'm not going to complain about it. I believe that says a lot about Dolly. Dolly would go on to make more movies, but we'll talk about those in the next episode. Now, we can't talk about Dolly without talking about her look. The hair, the makeup, the sparkle, and Dolly never ran from it. She leaned in. She once said, "It cost a lot of money to look this cheap." That wasn't self-deprecation. That was ownership. She understood branding before branding was a buzzword. She made herself unforgettable and then backed it up with talent so real nobody could dismiss her. She said, "I'm not offended by all the dumb blonde jokes because I know I'm not dumb and I know I'm not blonde." That's confidence, y'all. She has stated in numerous interviews through the years that her look was born from a country girl's idea of glamour. She recounted the tale about as a child being in town with her mother and seeing a woman, well known around the town, as practicing the world's oldest profession. Dolly said that she was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. She would point to the woman and tell her mother how beautiful she thought the woman was, and her mother would reply, "Oh, she's just trash," in a dismissive tone. Well, Dolly thought to herself, "That's what I want to be when I grow up, trash." Thinking trash was the term for how the woman looked. Thinking it was a genre of outfit, not knowing what her mother really meant since she was an innocent child. In her song, Backwoods Barbie, she explains her look very well. One line from the song reads, "I might look artificial, but where it counts, I'm real." Now, let's talk about Dolly, the businesswoman. Behind the rhinestones was a sharp business mind. In 1986, Dolly opened Dollywood in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, right near where she grew up. But this wasn't just a theme park. It was an economic lifeline. She later said, "I wanted to create something that would help the people of East Tennessee because those are my people." Dollywood would become one of the region's largest employers. She also built production companies, music publishing empires, and brand partnerships on her terms. And here's the key difference between Dolly and most stars. She owned her work. That decision would pay off massively later. One of the production companies she started with her manager, Sandy Galen, was Sandollar Productions. Sandollar produced some noteworthy hits, which included Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie and the TV series, Father of the Bride 1 and 2, Sabrina, the 1995 remake, and A Smoky Mountain Christmas. She has had several music publishing companies as well, which include Opar Publishing, a venture with her Uncle Bill, Velvet Apple Music, Opar Entertainment, Concord Music Publishing for her European distribution, and Dolly Records. She also expanded her business ventures in the Smokies as well as other places by owning Dolly Parton's Dixie Stampede, now known as Dolly Parton Stampede, the Pirates Voyage Attraction in Pigeon Forge, Splash Country Water Park, Dollywood's Heartsong Lodge and Resort, Dollywood's Dreammore Resort and Spa, and the new Songteller Hotel and Museum. There's been many brand partnerships in lines of consumer goods as well. She has partnered up with Duncan Hines for her own branded box cake mixes, cookie mixes, frosting, and even cornbread mix. There's also a Dolly branded frozen peach cobbler, which is awesome. I'm always keen on a cobbler, but this one really stands above the rest. Then there's her fragrance and makeup lines. She's also partnered with Cracker Barrel a few times, one time being with her album Backwoods Barbie, which featured an exclusive album only available in their stores. She's partnered with Dollar General as well. Dollar General featured her rock album, as well as carrying a Dolly branded line of home goods. And, of course, she's had her name associated with a line of wigs. However, that was in the mid-90s and not in recent years. Through all the fame, Dolly stayed anchored. She never had children, something she's spoken about openly and thoughtfully. She once said, "God didn't let me have children, so all the children could be mine." And that's apparent in all of her charitable work especially through the Imagination Library. She also took some of her brothers and sisters in to help raise after making it big in Nashville. Then, when that generation was grown and on their own, she helped raise some of her nephews and nieces. She coined the title for herself Aunt Granny, and that's what she's called by her family now. Some of her friends asked her why on earth she would let them call her a name with Granny in it. She laughed it off and said, "That's my name, and I love it." Through her charitable work and through her imagination library, she has truly become Aunt Granny to countless other children around the nation. If they don't know her as specifically Aunt Granny, they do know her as the Book Lady. Her faith remained personal but present. Her marriage to Carl Dean stayed strong, quiet, and real. While other celebrities chased attention, Dolly protected her peace. She knew the difference. By the late 1980s, some folks started whispering that Dolly's best days were behind her. You know how it goes. And, once again, they were wrong. She returned to her bluegrass roots in the late 1990s with albums that reminded everyone exactly where she came from and why she mattered. The 1990s until present day, Dolly's philanthropic legacy, the Imagination Library, her role as a modern cultural icon, how Whitney Houston changed her life, and how Dolly Parton became something rare, universally loved. So don't wander off too far, that porch light's still on. Be sure to catch the last episode in this series, which will be released tomorrow, Sunday, January the 18th at 10 p.m. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time, be blessed, and thanks for watching.